Test 1, 2. Chatting to Tom Evans. Yeah. Hi, welcome to the Running Channel. I'm Anna, and today I'm joined by Tom Evans, ultra runner Tom Evans, who last year won the UTMB CCC race. Tom, thank you so much for joining us today. I've got loads of questions to ask you about ultra running. The Running Channel viewers have been sending in questions too, so if it's okay, I'm just going to run through some of those.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
So first of all, what one piece of kit for you is essential when it comes to ultra running?
So I think when you're ultra running, you're obviously spending a lot of time out on your feet. So having a pack that you can wear that is firstly comfortable, but then can also carry all the necessary gear that you need to use. So for the last 8 months, I've been using a new pack called Arch Max. They're super lightweight. And I think the thing that I find is really useful on it is it's got sort of 2 bottle pouches on the front, but then just beneath the bottle pouches, it's got 2 smaller pouches where I can put my food. And eating on an ultra is key, and keeping yourself fueled is key. So actually having easy accessibility so you can get your food is really important. And also, my second favorite thing in it is at the top of the pack, underneath the zip, there's a small bag within the bag itself that you put your raincoat. So you don't need to take your pack off to get your raincoat out. So yeah, it's a really good bit of kit, and it's saved me on many occasions.
How many packs have you gone through trying to find the ultimate pack? Have you put them on before and been like, oh, I wish there was a zip there, or oh, I really need to get to this and I can't do that?
Yeah, exactly. And everyone's body shape is different, so a pack that would work perfectly for you may not work for me. So yeah, I've probably tested 5 or 10 different brands, probably up to 20 different packs, and have end up making quite a lot of modifications myself, which then normally break afterwards. But yeah, I think anything that's for an ultra marathon, you're going to be uncomfortable at stages, so you just need to be as comfortable as you can in things that you can control.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So the next question is, what does a training week look like for you? So when you're really in the thick of it, what's the maximum kind of training that you would be doing in a given week?
So day to day, my training really varies, and I actually focus slightly more on the high intensity work rather than the long, slow running. So normally a peak week may look like somewhere between 135 and 145 miles. And with that, probably try and include somewhere between 10 and 15,000 meters of vertical ascent, so 40 to 50,000 feet of climbing, but depending on what race I'm training for and trying to make it as specific as possible. As well as the running, so within the running, I'll do 2 sessions a week. There'll be hard sessions, whether it's an interval session that might look like 6 by 1 mile that I did this morning, or it might be 4 by 8 minutes at 10k pace or something like that, depending on what I'm training for. As well as that, I do 3 strength and conditioning sessions a week, a yoga session a week, and just try and keep the volume as high as I can without putting that much stress on my body. As yes, running, it can pound the legs a little bit. You can sort of pick up niggles when you start training for a long time. So for me, I like to supplement my training with some time on the bike. And if I am sort of building up into a peak week, I will add some cycling in before, and then as I increase my running, I'll reduce my cycling. It's a 1-for-1 swap over.
Cool. So you've got us here in East Sussex today, which is where you live. Obviously not many mountains around here. So how do you make the most of training with all that elevation?
So I think it's a good question. In the base of my training, around here is fine. I can get quite a lot of climbing on the South Downs, or about 20 minutes drive from. And then also on the treadmill, if I know, I'll map out a course and take CCC last year, for example. I know the first hour and 25 minutes is going to be a climb. I know what percentage gradient that is. I can chuck that in on the treadmill, and my body can just get used to the climbing. And yeah, it may not be the most fun, but you've sometimes got to think slightly outside the box. And then when I then get into really specific bits of training for a race, I will then go to a more specific area. So before my last race, I was in Gran Canaria for a couple of weeks just to get some more climbing. And before CCC, I spent some time in Maribel in the Three Valleys, and spent some time in Chamonix just getting used to the course and getting used to the climbing. And I think it's really important for an ultra runner to try and be able to replicate your environment, as that would just give you the best chance of success on the day.
How long's the longest you would stay on a treadmill for?
I think the longest treadmill run I've done is maybe just under 5 hours, probably for 4 hours 45. And that was following the time, worked out the time it was going to take me to get from point to point on the CCC course and program in the elevation change on that. Yeah, it was pretty boring.
How did you get through that mentally?
Yeah, mentally it is tough. And I do, if I'm in the gym, then I'll listen to music, or just ideally turn the treadmill around so you're looking into the gym so you can people watch, which is always entertaining. And then just remembering, so one of my mantras is process, not outcome. And actually focusing on the process is really important. Me knowing that doing what I'm doing today could make the difference between first place or second place, or performing as well as I know I can during a race. So yeah, for me, training is just about ticking boxes. And if you can tick those boxes and follow that process, then it is possible to perform at your limits.
So you said that you do listen to music when you're doing treadmill runs. So what for you is your guilty pleasure workout song?
I have a couple. We spoke about it earlier. When I left school and went straight to the army and went to Sandhurst. And when we were there, our platoon, our team song was "Call Me Maybe" by Carly Rae Jepsen. And that has kind of stuck with me. And pretty much every time it comes on, I will ring some people up, some of my mates up who I went through Sandhurst with, and say, "Oh, listen to the song, it's on." And they just think, "Tom, you're an absolute idiot." But it puts a smile on my face and distracts me for 3.5, 4 minutes. Which when you're running on a treadmill for 4 hours, those 3.5 minutes can really help.
And then finally, one of the most asked questions that we get from people who are interested in maybe branching out into ultras and making a step up from marathons and that kind of thing is, how do you fuel being on your feet for that long?
It's a really good question, and there is no one set formula. It's not right, if you eat this at this point, you're going to be fine. Things change, and so when I look into a race, I'll have a different plan, and then a couple of different options of that plan for when things happen. So nutritionists recommend that you take somewhere between 1 to 1.5 grams of carbohydrate per kilogram of body weight every hour, which sounds awfully complicated, and it kind of is. And I sort of slightly go off that, but I can sort of work off a gel or maybe 2 gels an hour, roughly. And if in an ideal world, I'd split the race into thirds. And for the first third, I would be predominantly on solid food. And so things for that, sort of biscuits, crisps, bread, peanut butter and jam sandwiches are the best, without crusts. Don't like crusts. I'm 27 and I still don't eat crusts. And then the middle third of the race, I then tend to go on to gels, as I want that sort of slightly faster released energy. And then I'll start using caffeine as well, and use Red Bull just for my focus and for that fast release energy. And then the final third of a race, I then tend to stick to sports drinks and more caffeinated products. Firstly, to give me that focus, but then secondly, just for that fast release energy, that you then have that energy when you need it. And the races are a little long in nature, so somewhere between the 100k. Last 100k was in and around 14 hours, I think. Which is a long old time. And yeah, you need that energy, and you need it to be ready and available. But then also with the nutrition, it's making sure that you eat enough during your training, because you are training for maybe a bit of a high volume in training. So my training week typically looks somewhere between 28 and 32 hours of training per week. You need a lot of food to fuel that, and just making sure that you eat enough so you don't lose a lot of weight, so you can keep your performance up, but then also be able to recover from sessions. As that's what training is. It's piecing the blocks together, and if you can't get your recovery right, then you're not going to be able to perform the next day.
And I know I said finally on the last question, but I'm a journalist, so I obviously have another question. With caffeine, the really interesting thing that some people have asked us about is whether you cut back before you then have a big race so that you then get more of a boost.
Yeah, and that's something that I do use. I have read up quite a bit about it, and I think the science is there that typically sort of somewhere between 2 weeks and 10 days before a race, I'll try and cut out all caffeine. I'm very fortunate being a full-time athlete where I haven't got that much other stress in my life, and I appreciate people who may be working Monday to Friday 9 till 5 and finish work on a Friday afternoon and they've got a race on Saturday morning. You may need caffeine to get you through the weekend. I completely understand that, but then there are certain ways that even if it's just a placebo effect of having a uncaffeinated coffee in the morning, and yeah, I do try and cut caffeine out before, and I just find that it affects me much more during the race in a positive way. I sort of feel more focused, feel like I've got more energy, feel more concentrated, that then ultimately allows me to perform my limits and see what I can achieve.
Amazing. Thank you so much for talking to us today.
Yeah,
I could
you.
literally sit and ask you questions about ultra running forever, but we've got to go. So thank you so much, and hopefully catch you for a run soon.
Perfect. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Thanks.